All right, so in this video, we are going to go over inferior glide at 90 degrees of abduction. So as the shoulder moves out into abduction, the humeral head should be able to glide inferiorly, okay? So in order to do this, and this is probably the most complicated thing of this whole technique, I'm going to step into the belt with what is going to be my kind of down the table leg or inside leg, okay? Now I have the belt in front of me. I am going to make sure the buckle is kind of close to my hip. I don't want the buckle to be up by my client's shoulder, okay? So the buckle's down by the hip. I'm going to turn the belt 90 degrees, turn it a second 90 degrees, and ultimately turn it a third 90 degrees, because ultimately we want this belt to be pulling inferiorly as we take her arm out to 90 degrees of abduction, okay? So if I have her arm kind of go through here, and now I bring the belt as close to that joint line as I can. So I want to come out, feel the end of her acromion process, and go just lateral to that. That will allow us to be most efficient, okay? Now considerations here, anytime you're putting a belt close to this glenohumeral joint, you need to make sure there's not excessive amounts of neural tension that's happening. We're also going to put a little traction onto this joint, and so that's just like kind of a constant feedback you want to have with your client. Okay, so now what I have is, if I needed to tighten this up, I would have the buckle right here that I could tighten it up a little bit, but I've pre-measured, and so I don't have to do that, which is nice. So I am holding her arm with my right hand, and I want her arm just to be heavy. And now what I want to be able to feel is, as I shift my weight back, it engages the humerus, the proximal portion of the humerus, okay? So I want to try and connect my weight shift to her shoulder abduction, all right? So as I shift back, I'm taking her into abduction, and then I am getting an infill right there, all right? And I want to just get at the very first part of that infill, okay? Is that okay from a nervy standpoint? Always want to check with that. Now I am bringing my hand to provide some resistance to her elbow, and just kind of keep your elbow bent at 90 degrees there. I am bringing some resistance so that she can adduct into my hand to further engage that infill. Here we go, and then you can slowly let that go. And now we can just work into this direction. Now, she actually, I was joking with her earlier, like kind of making fun of her shoulder, but this is a motion that's really not that bad on her. Some people, you'll be here and you'll try to take them into abduction, and the humeral head will just compress up against the acromion, okay? But in reality, she is able to get decently to that 90-degree mark. You could make an argument, depending on what people's needs are, that they need to go a bit above 90 degrees for this, but she is pretty much able to get there, and so I am happy with that. Now, to re-educate this, I would bring my hand, the side of my hand, into her armpit, to the inferior portion of that humeral head, okay? And I would say, don't let me lift up here. So hold that there. Good. Now, as she does that, her arm is wanting to come into an adduct position. Now, don't let me lift you up without bringing your elbow down towards me. There you go. That's better. And now I'm going to bring my other hand to the outside of her elbow and hold there. That's it. So now I have kind of a cantilever force of re-educating her humeral head into an inferior glide or caudal glide direction, while she is also in that 90 degrees of abduction. So hold that. And now from here, maintain that pressure into my hand, into your armpit, and slowly let me bring your arm down. Slowly let me bring it down. Keep that pressure there. So I'm giving a little feedback, and then bring your arm back into abduction. Good, and the belt has to be loose here to allow her to do that, and then slowly down. Good, and we could work into larger amounts of motion there out of, we're at the target of 90 degrees of abduction, and then we can work so that as she takes her arm out, she will naturally have that caudal or inferior gliding motion. Okay, so that is inferior glide at 90 degrees of abduction.